to another episode of Amazing Conversations. I am your host, Andrea Revills, and I am joined tonight by a young lady who I have known a number of years, and I've seen her over the years grow and mature into a lovely woman who I am very proud to be here on this evening to talk to. And her name is none other than Miss Betty Dickens. How are you, Miss Dickens?
I am just wonderful.
Great. So I wanted to have a conversation with you because, you know, a lot of people know they look at people today and they think, oh, they've just had it made. And I think I said it once before. Sometimes they say, oh, they just woke up like this.
Yeah.
But I remember being a little girl, and I remember you all lived on MacArthur Street. Is that correct?
Oh,
MacArthur?
When you were a little girl, probably when you were a little girl.
Yeah.
On MacArthur.
Yeah, I remember you all staying, and it was a tiny little apartment on MacArthur Street. And then, of course, to see today where God has brought you and your husband, Robert Dickens. Of course, he's not here. He's the working man, y'all. He make it happen. But I wanted you to kind of share your story with the audience because I know that, you know, God has blessed you and your husband tremendously. Again, I know that didn't just happen. Of course, it came with hard work, persistence, and determination. But just kind of share some of your past and how you got to where you are now.
Okay, well, when you said MacArthur Street, that was like, I was grown and married when we lived on MacArthur Street. Mm-hmm. But my earliest memory was living at 1106 South Van Buren Street. And anybody in Albany who knows where Van Buren Street is, the name sounds so much fancier than the actual location.
Yes.
Because when we were growing up, it was just a dirt road. And, you know, like I said, it had tin roof on it, just like a row of houses going on down the street. And I grew up first in that place. My earliest memory was of being taken, because we actually lived on Tift in CME.
Okay.
Before, with my mom, I have very, very vague memories of that. But I remember her taking us to my grandmother's house, and she lived on Van Buren Street at that time. And she said to us, y'all gonna stay here with your grandma and I'm gonna come back and get you. Well, I've always been, I guess deep down in my heart, I'm a person, if you tell me something, I believe what you say. So I believe she was gonna come back and get us, but that never did happen. So we went to live with our grandmother, and of course you don't know what in the world is going on. You don't know why your mother is taking you to live with your grandmother. And my dad was, they weren't married. My mother's actually married to somebody else, but my dad lived in the same town with us, but he was, you know, he was nobody that I really knew. First time I was introduced to him, I'm like, you know, and he was, you know, like people say, you know, give me a hug. I'm like, hey, I don't know you. So I went out the back door, and, you know, because I just like, this is a stranger to me. Wow. But I grew up in that house with my sister, Brenda, and my older sister, Dolores. And the thing I remember most about growing up there was the fact that I was so sickly. I was sick practically all the time. I remember one time in 5th grade, I went to Lincoln Heights Elementary School. And I remember one time in 5th grade, I was out of school about 30 days straight. I used to have asthma. And back then, my grandmother she was a part doctor, part root worker, entrepreneur, all that combined into one. So I would go to school with cellophane wrapped around my head, shirts, whatever.
Like plastic?
You know what? Yeah.
Oh.
If it rained, if it looked like it was gonna rain, I had cellophane on my head, and then I had some kind of hat on top of that. I looked like somebody going to the field. I would have on a what they call an undershirt. It wasn't no t-shirt, some kind of undershirt, which smelled like tallow because I would have tallow on my chest, and then I would have a shirt, a blouse, or something on top of that, and a jacket. And you know, if it were cold outside, I would wear my grandmother's coat. So I went to school looking like a little hobo. And of course, you know, everybody's going to pick at you. Yeah. And being picked at school on a regular basis. I hear people talk about bullying now, but people didn't make the same noise about it back then. It was just kind of like a part of life.
Right.
So, you know, I got pushed around, beat up at school, and sometimes I would see my grandmother standing out in the alley with her stick because my grandmother had one leg. So she would be standing out in the alley looking out for me because sometimes, you know, kids would just run up and push me down. I was so frail until they took advantage of me unless my sister was there. My sister, Dolores, was the one that, you know, you going to get beat if my sister found out that you were doing anything to me. Okay. But my grandmother would do whatever she had to do to try to take care of us. And we would hear from my mom periodically because she moved away to Miami, Florida. So she might come home once or twice a year. So we might see her then, but for the most part, I did not see my dad unless I ran into him somewhere. And so my grandmother would make sure that she watched out for us, even though people were coming in to buy homebrew on Sunday morning, or they were coming over on Saturday night because they, you know, Miss Lucille was gonna, you know, use her witchcraft book to get some kind of bad spell off of somebody. Or whatever. You know, if any kids in the neighborhood had sores or they had impetigo or they had any kind of problem, they would bring them to, we've taken you to Miss Seal. Miss Seal knows how to do whatever needs to be done. So she took care of us. She was our protector. And I learned from her. I learned to love to read. I learned that from my grandmother. And she sent us to Sunday school, and we would sing and do all that on Sunday evening. We learned how to love God from her, and she was a very hard person, and she was also very, very tough. So, and we just, sometimes what we had to eat was whatever people left over out of their refrigerator, you know, other people, not people in our neighborhood, but maybe some white people who come by and bring her whatever they didn't want. Instead of throwing it away, they would bring it, and that's what we would have to eat. And sometimes they, out in the country, my aunt stayed out there, my grandmother's sister, they would kill a hog. And so when they killed a hog, you know, they brought everything. So we had to clean the chitlins out. I don't mean chitlins like you go to the store and find chitlins in the little red plastic thing with the top on it. I mean, you smelled them from the road before you got to the house. And when we say clean chitlin, we ain't clean the outside. You good and you got all the whatever was in the intestine out. You got all that out. You know, because, and that was your job. And you knew you were coming home to clean chitlins because you could smell it before you even got there.
Before you even got there.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You said that your grandmother did witchcraft, but then she made sure that you all went to Sunday school?
Yeah. It was like a mix between the superstitious, the religious was combined with the superstitious at the same time. There was a lot of superstition, and even when my grandmother's sister eventually came to live with me as an adult, she brought with her her witchcraft books, which I told her, you know, you can't have them in here. So I had to get them from her, and those things were so hard to burn. I don't know why. I was burning them up in the backyard, but that was a part of their that was just like the culture that they
Right.
grew up in. You loved God and you know, you believed in Jesus Christ, but there was a lot of witchcraft and superstition that went along with that. For instance, if you had a headache, then she would have you part your hair down the middle, pour salt in the top of it, and, you know, pin it up, and then go read Psalm 6. You know, it was a combination of the things, and it was sort of like, you know, recently I was listening at, I think it was a PBS special, and it was talking about how African Americans brought with them from Africa their traditions, but then as the years went by, they began to be taught Christianity. So it wasn't like a total separation from their ancestry and the rituals of the ancestry. So a lot of what my grandmother did, I don't think they thought 1 minute there was anything wrong with it. You know, because when my mother finally did come home from Florida to live with us, one of the first places we went was to the two-headed man.
What's the
The
two-headed
two-headed man, for those of you that don't know, is not a man with actual two heads, but that's what they call the root worker. That's what they call the man that lived down at that time. This guy lived in, I think we went to Bainbridge that time. But we went there for this man. He was supposed to be able to cure my mama of the cancer. So anyway, I did a lot of praying as a child. As soon as I knew and heard about God, I just loved God. I loved the Word of God. I would read everything I could get my hands on about God, but at the same time, I didn't understand all those superstitions that my grandmother had. But you know, you did what your grandmama told you to do.
Right, that's
So,
true. That's true.
Believe it or not.
So if we fast forward to, let's say, you know, your later days in school, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe you told me, I heard you say you got your love of reading from your grandmother.
Yeah.
And then, did you tell me you graduated early at 16?
Yeah, I graduated at 16. Back in the day, they let kids skip a grade if you had the ability. And when I was in first grade, I had done all the work and all the everything, I guess probably halfway through. So they went ahead and started giving me the work for the second grade. So I didn't really have to go to the second grade because I already knew all of that and I had already demonstrated that. So they promoted me to the third grade. So which made me, all throughout school, I was the youngest person in the class. And then when I graduated, and in 1969, I was 16 years old. And
From the Ponderosa, right?
Absolutely. Monroe High Golden Tornadoes is what they used to call it back in the day. I don't know what they call it these days. And I'm pretty sure some of my classmates are going to be listening, because my graduating class was so, and they still are so awesome. We know everybody. You know, they keep in touch with everybody, and you know, we always just know what's going on with everybody's family. If somebody passes away, somebody's sick, we still all know. And my class was one of the first classes that when integration happened, we were given the opportunity to go to Albany High School. But myself and most of my class did not go to Albany High. So yeah, I graduated when I was 16. My mother had just died when I was 15. So my senior year, I was very, very depressed. I didn't, you know, you kind of always have the hope that your family will come some kind of way, come together and be intact. But my mother did not come back home to live until I was around 15. And at that time, she was dying of cancer, and she died of cancer when I was 15, and I graduated that next year when I was 16.
So I have to assume that you were pretty smart to have excelled and graduated at a earlier than most people your age.
Yeah.
I like to ask, because I know your educational path wasn't like most people. You know, most people, they graduate high school and then they go straight to college or what have you. and then they kind of start their career from there. But I know yours was a little different. I don't know. I know you got your bachelor's later in life because you did
57.
57.
Yeah, that's a winding road. When I went to Albany State, and one of the reasons why I'm so passionate today is because of the experience I had as a teenager. I did not know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to. I was too afraid to even ask anybody a question. I did not have any money to go to school with. The only person I remember actually helping us was the welfare lady. Our welfare worker, she helped us fill out some kind of forms or something, because my grandmother, she didn't know how to do anything about, getting me from high school to college. And, everybody in the neighborhood was like, oh, you're 16, you're going to graduate when you're 20. And she's just so smart. A lot of times the negative was so far outweigh everything that I heard. Periodically, I would hear two things about myself.
Okay.
The first thing, and people would talk about me like I wasn't there. They would, I don't like to say always, but I often heard this, oh, she got some pretty hair. That was what I was known for. You're known for the hair. Then, and she's so smart. She's just, she's just like a walking dictionary. So those two things are positive things. Well, I guess positive things that I heard. But my hope was to go to school and get that education and get a great job, which at that time people thought being a school teacher was it. That was the thing. You want to go to school, and you want to be a school teacher. And I remember Geraldine West, her name is Hudley now. Yeah, Geraldine West lived across the street from us, and we knew that she had gone to college. Okay. And so, that was like, ooh, with Geraldine, she finished college and so forth. So I got to Albany State, and I didn't even know where to go. I was just lost, and for a good while to get to Albany State, I walked. I walked from Madison Street to Albany State College trying to get an education. Walking across, that's one of the things that sometimes I have flashback. Walking across Broad Avenue, not Broad Avenue, walking across Oglethorpe Bridge. And that bridge bouncing with those 18-wheelers rumbling across there, and me weighing probably, I don't think I weighed 100. Maybe somewhere, I was so afraid I was going to be blown over the side of that bridge because, the thing was like waist high. It wasn't like you felt any kind of security. So I wouldn't look that way. I wouldn't look at the river. I'd just be walking straight across. You talking about walking by faith. I was walking by faith before I knew what walking by faith was. Yes. I'd keep my eye on the other side of that bridge, and I would get to school and get there, no food, so I'd be hungry all day. I'd have to borrow. I remember a guy, he saw that I didn't have my textbooks, and his name was Greg Heilich. I remember him to this day because of his kindness to me in saying, you can look on with me. I didn't have the books. I didn't have the understanding of how the school worked. I didn't, and trying to walk there and walk back every day and walk there and walk back. If you know where Madison Street is and you know Albany State is, right. Walking there, carrying whatever you're carrying, and not having food, and after a while, I just had to say, I'm not going to be able to do it. And then I tried to go back to school again. I tried to go back a couple of times, but I didn't understand. You got to withdraw, or else every grade, every class you have registered for will be an F if you didn't withdraw from the class. So by the time I left Albany State, like in 1974, and I went back again. Each time I would go back, I had these F's staring me in the face, and I had a little school loan, which when you don't have any parents and you don't know how to deal with things, you are just like, that's just the kind of ignorance that can keep you locked down for decades. Right. So when I finally did, first time I tried to go back to college, by then I had my oldest daughter needed to go, so I didn't go. I took all whatever resources we had. I didn't try to pay that school loan off, and I put all that toward Bridget going.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to go back again, and so then it was time for Dee Dee to go.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, it was like, no, you just wait. And so then the third time, it was time for Bud to go. So by the time I actually went to school, I ended up graduating. I went to school, and when I got there, of course, here are these 9 F's staring me in the face from Albany State College.
From the 70s.
From the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant I have to retake all those classes, and I have to make an A to offset that grade, because you have to have a certain GPA to graduate from the teacher education program, even get into the teacher education program.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have those certain grades, so lots of prayer.
Yeah, and I'll say this, that's important what you're saying, because so many children, youth today, especially when you've not had anyone to go to college and kind of pave the way for you and can kind of show you, what you need to do and kind of guide you through, then you will, mess up and not know. Because even for myself, I'm the oldest, and I was the first one from my mom and dad to go to college. So I'm like you. When I got there was a class that I didn't know or I wasn't doing well in, I had no idea. All you got to do is withdraw from it. I thought I had to ride it out.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking still like, grade school.
Yeah.
But for our children, and we've often told them, because, my husband and I are both college graduates, you have a resource. You have somebody you can talk to tell you about financial aid, to tell you about, how many classes to take. If this one is too hard, pick another teacher, talk to other students to see what's the best teacher to have. But a lot of times when you don't know, then you make those mistakes that can sometimes follow you and can be quite discouraging. And I'm thinking about someone such as yourself, graduated early, always heard, oh, she's so smart, and knew it, because apparently you graduated early. And then to go to college, and it's like, I'm not excelling. This isn't what I'm accustomed. These aren't the grades that I'm accustomed to. It can really mess with your mental.
Right.
So I hear that, and I know many of you that's watching today, you all may not know, but Miss Dickens, she graduated from college at 57. Mm-hmm. Was it an education? What's your degree?
Elementary education.
Elementary education. But unlike most people, let me tell you all about this lady. And I'm saying this about her, but I know you have to give honor to her husband too, because they're a team.
Right.
But she didn't just graduate and then just go and say, okay, now I'm going to try and work in the school system till retirement. She had a whole greater vision. And that greater vision has manifested in Dothan, Alabama, where you all currently reside, where God has not only allowed her to utilize her education degree, but allowed her to give her her heart's desire, which is, and I'll let you tell that, because this your dream.
Well, when I graduated, I was, and sometimes, in the back of your mind, you're doing something really for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
You're really not doing it for yourself. So my primary goal in going back to school and graduating with a degree in elementary education was, in my heart, this is just my philosophy of life. I like to finish what I start. If I started something, I like to finish what I start.
Okay.
And I wanted to get my degree. I didn't want to be, sitting somewhere talking with my classmates when I go to a class reunion and like, oh, Betty, what, so-and-so. And, because they knew I started college, and not necessarily so much for them. But then at the same time, I started pursuing a job in the public school system, because that seemed the next logical progression when you've been studying elementary education and you've done your internship and you've substituted and you've done this and that, it seems like the next natural progression. So that's what I did. And sometimes you have dreams that you just don't tell anybody about. You keep them to yourself because they probably seem ridiculous to other people. But I did go and try to I started interviewing for jobs, and the people at the central office, they sent me, they would then like send you out on interviews or give you the information about job openings. So I kept going. And by the time, and see, I thought that if you could do the job and you really were great, because I was the first student in my teacher education program to get a 4. Now, people that don't know what that means is that you never, the training was, or the word was, you never get a 4, because that's like saying this person doesn't need to do anything else. They mastered all the skills. And so they usually will give you, when they come to evaluate you, they're going to give you a 3 at the most. You're probably never going to get a 4, because that's like saying you're a master teacher. So my supervisor came and evaluated me on more than one occasion, and she actually gave me a 4. She said, "You're the first person I ever gave a 4 to." And so I knew I could teach, and probably everybody that knew me knew I could teach, and I'd already taught. So I kept going to these job interviews, and every time it's like, oh, if nobody comes in here and just knocks my socks off, blah, 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 and I was like, I'm just thinking certainly I'm going to do a job in the public school system. So by the time I got to my 11th interview, and I did not get hired, deep down inside, I could hear God saying to me, it's not the principals. It's not the principals. Because I'm thinking, well, it must be them. They must not, they must think I'm too old, or they must whatever. He said, no. He said, it's not the principals. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, what is it? What is it? Yeah. And so deep down in my heart, he gave me a word about a page and a half long in 2013. It was March of 2013. He told me things that he was going to do. And so I didn't tell anybody. I just wrote them down. I didn't say anything. But I got to the place where I was sick and tired of preparing for interviews. And so I was at church one night in Albany, and they heard about it. I got my degree, blah, 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 and they were just as sure as I was that I was going to get a job. Oh, so you done started teaching somewhere? And I got tired of hearing that question. You done started teaching? And I got tired of explaining that, well, I've been interviewing, I don't have a job. And then out of my spirit, I know it had to be my spirit because I wouldn't intend to say this. I told this person, I said, God said he going to give me my own school. Now, see, I wasn't intending to say that. But it came out of me. God said he going to, said, I said, God going to give me my own school. Then I heard and got on out the door because I was like, I hope they don't ask me, well, when? Well, where? Well, how? Well, let me know. So I hurried up and I was like, now, why did I say that? I don't have a thing. I don't have anything that's going to, where is the school coming from? And so then I was like, this is amazing to me. So I just I started being quiet about the things. Because see, even now, I've got things that I can see that if I were to say it, in 2019, I just jumped to that. In 2019, we have a smaller place than this one. And I had taken what I had and I was using everything I had to fix that up. Kind of like a Abraham and Sarah moment where you think this is gonna be it. This the baby right here. But then it's like, God, no, that's not the baby. So I was fixing that up, doing whatever I could, you know, making it look as good as it can look, and I'm all happy with that, because I've always been, if I got a strength in life, it's gratitude. Mm-hmm. If I got anything in my life, it's gratitude. Mm-hmm. So I'm thankful. So I'm doing all I can do, and then one day I get a call from my husband. He says, I want you to come over here and look at something. And so I'm like, okay, I come over. Because I had told him, he was the only person that I actually told about that I believe God was going to give me a school, and that was what I wanted. So I came over to look at this building, this, as the architect told us, if they built it today, it would cost more than $1 million. Mm-hmm. So I came over to look at this $1 million edifice, which I'm like, okay, I didn't know what I was going to look at. And so I came in, and he's, you know, he introduced me to his associate, and we walking around, and so and I'm being asked, well, do you want it? I'm like, yeah. But yeah, I also know you gotta have some money.
Money, right.
And I did not have any money. You know, so I'm like, but sometimes God have you just be quiet. Mm-hmm. Don't start trying to figure things out. And so the man had said, well, have her to come over here and look at it. And if she wants it, I'll make it happen. Mm. In my whole lifetime, I never heard that statement before. If I want it,
I'll make it happen.
I will make it happen. Mm. Which meant I don't have to make it happen.
That's right.
I can't make it happen. He can't. I'm thinking my husband, he can't make it happen. I can't make it happen. None of my kinfolks could make that happen. Mm-mm. You know.
You just got a woman.
You just got, all you had to do was say. All I had to do was say.
Yeah.
If she comes over and she says that she wants it, then I'll make it happen.
Wow.
And so I said, yes. And I didn't ask any questions. Contrary to my logical mind, I did not ask any more questions about it. You know, how can it happen? I didn't know. How this going to happen? So I ain't say anything. But the next thing I know, in a few days, we are sitting at the table, not with any lawyers, not with any down payment check, not with any closing cost check, not with any money, not with any credit check, not with any, let me see your bank statement, not with any, how much do you have coming in, not with how much can you pay, how... In a matter of days, the $1 million building is mine.
It's yours. Look at God.
No money out of I didn't write anything out of my check. And it wasn't like, no, somebody just donated you a building. No. It's no donated the building. God made this happen in his own, and nobody can say that they did that. Nobody can say that they made that happen. And on top of it, I found out that the Social Security Administration wanted the building. The police department wanted the building. And these were people with money.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? These are folk with the money. And no.
God had it for you.
It was for me.
It's for you.
I rode by this building many times and not once thought, that's going to be my building.
So today we sit in the Betty Dickens Educational and Training Facility located at 2330 Montgomery Highway in Dothan, Alabama. This is a main highway.
Absolutely.
That Betty Dickens' name is on this building.
Yes.
And who would have ever thought? Young, frail girl, bullet from Van Buren, didn't hardly have food to eat.
Right.
Didn't have no nice clothes to wear. None of that. No mama and daddy in the house, raised by a grandmother.
Right.
And God took you through all of that. And he gave you your school. He gave you your dream. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but to me, that's very inspiring. Because what you have shown is that no matter how long it takes,
Right.
when you trust God and you continue to do all that you can do,
Yes.
then God will still put you ahead of everybody. So you ain't behind nobody. You may have got that degree later, but God got you right where you need to be, don't he?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
And I listen, we are actually taping this podcast from one of the many beautiful rooms at the Betty Dickens Educational Training Center. If you are in the Alabama area, you need to check out Miss Dickens because her facility is absolutely gorgeous. I'm telling you, and I'll say this for me, she's the only black woman that I know that has her own school. So to me, that is just awesome. That's an encouragement and a motivation to me. This shows that when you have a determination, if you continue to stick with it, then in the end, you can still come out on top. So I thank you for joining us tonight for this amazing conversation. Miss Dickens has a whole lot of more stuff I'm sure she can share because she is a gifted woman, very smart. I'm telling you, she has written so many curriculums. She's written books. This lady is a lady that if you are in need of some guidance, she does not mind teaching and training. So be sure to look her up. Thank you for joining us again. I am your host, Lady Andrea Revills. Until the next time, be sure to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have a good evening.